Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Welcome to the Shepherd Studio, Real People, Real Conversations. We're really excited to have you here today and learn a little bit about you.
It's amazing to be here with you today.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
Well, I have the pleasure of already knowing all of the amazing things that you do and a little bit about your story. Wanted to have you here because you have a really unique story in the fact that, kind of started on the production side and then have, grown in your career with larger clients, corporate clients, and now are serving on the strategy and experience team. So I gave a little Reader's Digest version, but share a little bit more just about your tenure at Shepherd and how your roles have evolved.
Yeah. So I started out in account production.
Yep.
I'm actually coming up on 10 years, so the
Wow.
fact that it's been about a decade
Happy
is...
Annie.
Oh, thank you.
I love that.
It's kind of wild and it feels very full circle, but
Yeah.
just picked up on it really quickly. I went to school for public relations and hospitality, so I
Okay.
had a little taste of the
Events.
trade show environment specifically. Shout out to Georgia State University.
Woohoo.
But
What are they? Are they the Georgia State Wildcats?
We are the Panthers.
Oh, Panthers. Go Panthers.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
But so really quickly found my niche in corporate business and working with really talented marketers to bring their dreams to life, which then led me along to our strategic accounts team. So I was
Yeah.
helping to mentor some of our other associates so that they could really focus on design thinking and a lot of the discovery part of the creative process and working with our customers. And then I took the leap last year to join the strategy team to really focus on thinking through overarching strategy with our customers on a more macro level. So it's been and also in a micro level because it depends on the customer and the need. So
Yeah,
it's been
I
a
love
really
that.
awesome journey.
So talk to me a little bit more about your experience in working with corporate clients. From my opinion, that's really where you're going to get that experiential side. I love just brainstorming with you because I consider myself a corporate client in terms of my ideas.
I would agree.
And so I know that probably comes with some unique challenges in the way that they speak and the way that they have a vision. So talk to me just a little bit about how all of that works on the corporate side. And
Yeah.
what makes it unique, I guess.
I think, the first thing I want to note is I feel like I want to credit a lot of the knowledge that I've gained from my corporate customers because
Yeah,
there's
I love
so
that.
much jargon, there's so much process, and there's such
Yeah.
a unique approach that I was able to take and then tailor to how we then do things from an operational standpoint. And then also meld that a bit with our processes and streamlining those so that they're kind of in alignment with maybe an organization that has a lot more voices at the table. So I think
Yeah.
that's something specifically with corporate customers is there's a lot of stakeholder involvement. There are a lot of different departments that are involved in an event. And so being that
Conduit?
yes,
That's your
absolutely.
favorite word?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Or being the bridge between those
Yeah.
departments and kind of finding that commonality and that through line.
Yeah.
And then kind of helping to remind others of what the other groups are doing because maybe they're kind of on their own paths. So I think finding that continuity and streamlining on behalf of those customers is a really unique challenge, but it's also very exciting because getting that variety of voices and that variety of perspectives, it then increases the ability to, find new ideas, find new perspectives, and I think it gives a more representative end result.
I completely agree. So you talk about new ideas. Where do you get inspired, Sarah?
First, I think
Daily life.
Yes, daily life.
The
Anywhere
airport,
you go.
that's where I love the airport.
I love the airport.
Yeah.
So one of my colleagues and very close friends and I, we recently went to the Dominican Republic together, and the first
Is
thing
this
after
our very own Amanda Sparkman?
it sure is. Shout out,
shout
Miss
out to Amanda
Sparkman.
Sparkman. Another great Shepherd personnel.
But myself, and Janine all went on a trip together, and the first thing we did after going through customs is they had this art installation, and it was all of these different traditional figurines of women, Dominican women, and they were all designed by different artists. And so we kind of brought that in, and her and I immediately started brainstorming. But I think we collaborate a lot with each other.
Yeah,
and so
just
we're
people, your
exactly
besties. You
we're
get inspired by your besties.
absolutely
Is what I'm hearing.
well, and also just riffing with my colleagues.
Yeah.
Somebody might have a different perspective to bring, and that might spark an entire different tangent in a direction that you didn't even think to go in.
Yeah.
But other places, I love looking at just what brands are doing to activate in.
I know. I think our LinkedIn messages are just constant like exchange
Yes.
of cool ideas.
Yes, like
we're like,
just
love
in
the
way
lighting,
and the
love
way
this application
to execute it too. But I used to work in the festival
Yeah.
environment, so I worked at an art festival company, and just seeing the way that artists interpret their spaces, I think there's a lot to be gained from just the visuals from artists, but then finding the story behind it, and then how to make that applicable to a particular customer or a particular audience or a brand.
Yeah.
So I think that's purposeful approach to art application is really important. But also, I am chronically online, as many of us are. So I think that just in terms of like the trend cycle, I think things
That was
are.
going to be my next question. I know you kind of have a love-hate with trends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because what we were talking about it earlier, you were saying trends, by the time that you're able to apply the trend,
Yeah.
there's another one already coming. And
Exactly.
And I think it's all subjective, too, right? That trend could be relative to what this one particular person said, so they've never seen the pickleball activation, right?
Yeah.
But the people that went to PCMA, there was thousands of people that saw it. So what are your kind of hot takes on trends?
I do love a trend, because I do think that if you bring it to an audience that hasn't seen it before, it's just as exciting as the first time that you saw it.
And that goes back to that idea of knowing your audience, right?
Exactly. And that's also the big thing is like, seeing my favorite trend right now is nostalgia and just playing on the fun and the kind of the idyllic.
Get silly,
exactly, because we come to connect, we come to meet, but we also come to have a good time.
Right.
And so bringing that air of like childlike wonder to a space is really nice, but also connecting it to, what are your goals and your initiatives? What do you want to convey to your audience? I think that's always the key takeaway in any sort of trend is one, making sure that it resonates with your audience, because you could take, friendship bracelets and you could bring it to a firefighters convention. It may land, it may not.
Right.
But I mean, ultimately, finding the right activation or the right trend for your particular audience is key. But I also think that there's value in looking at things from the past and seeing what's classic, what's tried and true, and putting your own personal spin on that. And also working with your partners to determine ways to, optimize that engagement, to add additional value, to include some messaging there, so that it's not just a fun activation, it's a purposeful and a meaningful activation.
No, I completely agree. Shifting gears a little bit, so we had the privilege of sharing the stage at Connect, right? And I love the collaboration, because as you would say, I believe you're the conduit between like brand and experience. And so we had a great presentation around how the brand is an extension of the experience, and I thought you just had a really interesting perspective on that, and I can obviously speak to the marketing side, but I can see like you get lit up with the idea of like really just capitalizing on that event's opportunity to extend the brand. So tell me a little bit more just about like your belief when it comes to how to leverage events to amplify a brand.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the most exciting challenges in what we do, and it's really not a challenge, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to amplify a brand's voice.
Right.
We think about like our exhibitor voices, we think about our stakeholder voices, we think about our audience voices, but one of the key stakeholders in this is the brand voice itself. And so I think that the opportunity to physicalize a brand's presence beyond your marketing collateral, beyond your advertising.
It's like actualizing
exactly.
it. Like you feel it.
You're taking a presence and you're then iterating an environment. You're creating a space that's inspired by that brand, or inspired by the theme or the message or whatever initiative you've put in place for that particular year. And I think that that's incredibly exciting, because you get opportunities to really immerse your attendees into your brand. And I mean, you're telling a story. And so that's what we're here to do, is to help tell that story through space development, environmental design, experience design, all that good stuff.
Well, and I think like I love working with you, and it's just fun because like for me,
with
representing the
you
Shepherd brand, there's all these different elements, whether it's, backgrounds or different things, and you have such a just creative take on how can we take those elements that are like digitally applied and then take them into the experience so it feels seamless, But then on the other end, so there's, you want it to be conducive or seamless, like I said. But what I also love about working with you is you push the limits, or you get me to push the limits in terms of brand application, where you're like, hey, Taylor, yes, we're going to make this like this gradient, for example, not necessarily part of our brand identity, but it feels enough like our brand and is a really cool application in this space to provide more dimension. And so I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, like your belief is like events is also the time while you want it to, again, like your brand to extend into the experience, you can have some fun.
Absolutely.
Well, right?
Yes.
You're always like, it doesn't have to be exact, Taylor,
Well,
and I love that.
I think that's what, we're here to create moments. We're here to create something that's lasting. And I think obviously staying true to who your brand is and what you represent is so important, but it should be one of the pieces that informs your event identity. Yeah. I think that's an opportunity to get really creative, to either change things year over year, so that part of the experience is that the entire event environment is unique to that individual moment. Yeah. And I think that in itself also creates a sense of excitement each year, because your attendees start to expect that from you. Yes. In terms of what's going to happen next. How are they then going to activate that beyond just the environmental application of the branding? Because that's what I'm looking at. Right. Or I'm getting into the minutia of the substrates. I'm a substrate nerd.
Oh, yes. But I'm like, what is this made out of? And you're like, I don't know, but we can build it. We can figure out a way. I love that, which leads me to my last question for you. So I know I always come to you with crazy ideas, and I'm like, how can we do this in-house? And you're like, yes, no problem. We'll figure it out. We're going to use B-Matrix, and we're going to do this, and we're going to add a curve, and I love it. So what is the craziest idea that someone has come to you with that you were able to execute? That's obviously not the mainstream ask of a fabric wall.
Yes. I had a very wonderful, just the most conceptual creative director with my customer at Keller Williams. Uh-huh. But she would always come to me with these, she's like, this sounds crazy, but I'm like, bring me your craziest idea, please.
Yeah.
She asked for a fountain. And so the first question was, okay, what is your interpretation of a fountain? Do you want a literal interpretation of a fountain, or what the fountain environment evokes? Because that was the big piece, was that...
What's the why behind that?
Exactly. She and I got down to the bottom of it, that she essentially wanted to create like a gathering space, but in a tiered way, so that you're creating the visual interest. We also had a really great graphic application that was almost like a rise through the years. We actually did a drone fly through of the space too. She also liked to talk about like crags and things like that, and so then she would bring in, let's talk about nostalgia, references to childhood television shows and things like that. But just kind of coming up with these really unique concepts and things to be inspired by. I think that's one of my favorite things, is when a customer has at least a direction in mind, or even just
there's always a way.
Exactly. Or how can we then evolve that? How can we grow it beyond this single piece of inspiration and then apply this throughout the entire space? And so I think the evolution of these concepts is probably the most exciting part, but that's, I think, what with corporate customers specifically, and really strong marketing teams, it's like, okay, let's bring this to life. Give me your craziest idea. Let's make these dreams come true, and let's also find a way to do it that's budget friendly.
Yes, I love it. Well, Sarah, this has been so fun. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Talk for a million hours. We'll definitely have you back in the studio soon, and I just appreciate you and love working with you. So
thank you so much.